Hi, thank you for joining me today. Today we're gonna make rice pudding. We're gonna make a healthier version of it. We're gonna replace the regular milk with a coconut milk. And this recipe is very simple. It only calls for 3 ingredients: coconut milk, rice, and vanilla. That's it. And one free ingredient is cinnamon, if you wish to sprinkle on top of the dish. So actually 4, but you know, if you don't like vanilla or you do not like cinnamon, it's your choice. So let's make rice pudding. Let's put our aprons on and let's get cooking. So this recipe calls for 1 cup of coconut milk, and I just use a coconut milk from a carton. It has some added sugars already added to this coconut milk, so we're not gonna use any extra sugar for this recipe. We need 1 cup of coconut milk, and this recipe makes 2 generous servings of rice pudding. It's very easy to make it for the entire family. For your family, like a family of 4, you just need to multiply all the ingredients by 2. So 1 cup, we're gonna start heating this up. I usually start with the medium to maybe medium-high heat. We're not gonna worry about it for a couple of minutes. We're gonna bring it to a boil. As our milk heating up, we're gonna prepare rice. For this recipe, we need 3 tablespoons of rice. I like to use Jasmine rice. It's very flavorful and very aromatic, and so for that reason we're gonna use that. You could use any other rice you like. So to make this coconut rice pudding creamy, I'm gonna take, there's 3 tablespoons of rice in here. I'm gonna take 1 tablespoon, roughly 1 tablespoon of rice, and I'm gonna grind it in a coffee grinder. This coffee grinder has seen a lot of coffee and spices. I like to use this especially for spices. And as you can tell, this is not dirty. It's just that's what happened to it after using this to grind cloves or any other spices. It's just sticks to the surface and it damages a little bit, but it acts as an abrasive material to this coffee grinder. But anyway, I'm still using it. It still works. It doesn't bother me. It has a nice actually smell to it after grinding all this coffee and cloves. So but anyway, I always wipe it down with a towel, and our coffee grinder is ready to grind some rice. So we need about 1 tablespoon of rice. Sorry for the noise. It doesn't need to be super fine. We just need some bigger pieces, some smaller pieces. You could use 1 tablespoon of rice flour instead, but to buy a whole bag of rice flour for this recipe, unless you cook something else with it, I think is unnecessary. So you can always grind your own rice and make rice flour or just ground rice. It doesn't have to be super fine, grounded super finely. It just needs little bigger pieces, a little smaller, and some maybe what looks like a flour. So that's done. Our milk is coming to a boil, so this is about time to add rice. This is 2 tablespoons of rice. and we're gonna add 1 tablespoon of grounded rice in our coffee grinder. You think that this amount of rice is not enough for the recipe, but believe me, it's gonna get thick and it's gonna have a pudding-like texture. So this is coming to a boil. We just need this to come to a boil. Then we're gonna reduce the heat and it's gonna simmer for about 15 minutes. Our pudding is simmering away. We're gonna check on it in maybe 5 more minutes to check on, we're gonna check on its consistency. In the meantime, I wanna give you a couple tips on how to use rice. This is how I use rice. After I grind coffee or spices, they tend to get stuck to the sides of my coffee grinder. The best way to clean it out is to add a little amount of rice to it. Then you grind your rice. Let's pretend that was done. You dump the rice flour or whatever you made in there with the rice, and you just go in, unplug your coffee grinder, and you wipe it with a towel. Be careful, of course, don't injure yourself by doing this. So this is how you can clean out a coffee grinder if there are any bits and pieces stuck to the side of it. Another trick I use is to, like during summer months, I use this salt shaker, and sometimes the salt gets lumpy. You can add a little amount of rice. You can see, I don't know if you can see or not, there's a little bit of I don't know, maybe I don't know, less than a half a teaspoon, maybe quarter of a teaspoon of rice in there, and this kind of helps to maintain the moisture in the salt. It doesn't get lumpy. So that's another good tip, to use rice in the kitchen. Let's check on our rice pudding. It's still cooking and it's thickened up a little bit. It's gonna continue to thicken up, so we're gonna let it simmer for maybe another 10 minutes. We'll set our timer to 10 minutes. Let's check on our coconut rice pudding, and it's rich, nice consistency. I think it's gonna get thicker as it cools down, so I don't think you need to add any more rice to it at the beginning, of course. But it's as you're cooking this rice pudding, you may think that you may not have enough rice, but I promise you, you have enough rice. 3 tablespoons of rice is plenty for 1 cup of milk. So let's add half a teaspoon of vanilla. Let's kill off the heat. I turn off the heat, and we're gonna add half a teaspoon of vanilla. Stir this in. Vanilla will make our rice pudding taste sweeter, so even sweeter. So, and it's gonna give it a nice flavor, of course. Who doesn't like vanilla? But vanilla is good to kind of make any dish taste even sweeter. So we're gonna, with the heat off, we're gonna let this sit until it reaches room temperature. You can serve it at the room temperature or slightly cold in you can continue to cool it off in the refrigerator, but I like to serve it at the room temperature. So we're gonna put the lid on and leave it like that we can take it off the heat and leave it like that until it reaches the room temperature. And now I'm gonna show you how to serve your rice pudding. Let's pretend it reached the room temperature or desired temperature you want to serve it. And I like to use nice serving bowls or rosettes like this one. It makes it, I think it makes the dish taste even better. So we'll put some rice in there, about half of this amount. Yeah, it's about half. And you're just gonna sprinkle some cinnamon, ground cinnamon, if you wish. And here's your coconut rice pudding. Enjoy.